ignore it and not pay attention to that and do whatever, but not deal with that. It really hurt a lot because my sister Mary Jo moved with her. My brother Andy used to go and visit, and I left my sister Kelly and I home. And when you're a little kid, you think, well, Mom just doesn't like me, that's why I didn't go. But that really wasn't the case. That's just what I thought. Because I decided not to deal with it, I didn't solve the problem. I just ignored it and let the problem grow. And what started to happen was this little shell started to build around my heart, and I just started to not care about stuff and not really feel stuff. And then I went to high school. And as you can probably imagine a little bit, I was the chubby kid, a little awkward. People laughed at me and picked on me a lot. Didn't like that either, but I decided what I'll do is I'll just ignore that too, and then everything will be better. And then I realized most of the kids in my school were kind of stupid. And I was way funnier than them, so I had way better fat jokes than they did. So I could make them laugh at me, then I was in control of it, and it didn't hurt so much, but that was really a lie. I was telling myself that it hurt a lot. But I did that. That was how I got my acceptance in school. That's how I did that. And as time went through in school, the jokes weren't really enough, so, you had to do what everybody else was doing. So I started the smoking and the drinking and the drugs and all that stuff, like half-heartedly. But all my friends were really into it, or my friends, so I kept doing it too. All the time I was going to high school, I used to volunteer at a Methodist camp in Ranningham called Aldersgate, Camp Aldersgate. And then when I got a little older, I started working there, go camping, and then working there. And I had these two lives that I would lead when I was at Camp Aldersgate, or doing chrysalis retreats, or at church, and the way I was all the other time. Any other time, I was this other person, and at camp and church and at chrysalis retreats and stuff, I was this guy. And I realized that when I was this guy over here at camp and at church, I didn't have to try really hard. I didn't have to make people like me. I didn't have to do stuff that they were doing. People just liked me. I'm cool. I'm awesome. I don't know if you guys can tell back there. I'm awesome. Am I awesome? Yeah! A little feedback. Audience participation is great. But every other place, I wasn't awesome. People were like, oh, you're just Bob, whatever. If you do what we say, then we'll like you. You buy me something, I'll be your friend. So I worked at Camp Aldersgate for 3 years, and the last year that I worked there, I stayed up in the fall and helped them tear down camp and then reset it for the winter. And I was alone, and it was the end of October, and it was starting to snow, because when you're in the Adirondacks, it snows in October sometimes. And I was standing in a field, and it was snowing, and this realization of what I just told you, that I was a different person here than I was here, started to hit me. It was like, when I was doing things that were centered around God, I didn't have to try really hard. I didn't have to be this other guy. But when I was doing stuff in the world, I had to try really, really hard to fit in. So I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. I wasn't going to try and fit in. I wasn't going to compromise who I was for other people. And then I went on in my life and I started to work and kind of stopped going to church a lot. And would go once or twice a month, give them $2 and we're good and do whatever. And I remember standing on a log at Camp Aldersgate when I was 13 years old and saying, I want the Lord to come into my heart and I am saved today. I remember doing that. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember doing that. And then as I went on in my life, I went away from all of that. I kind of left it all. Years and years go by, and I meet my lovely wife, Lisa. She moves to New York. She married me, and don't know why. That's miraculous and some of the stuff right there. We started looking for a church. We couldn't find a church that we liked. We couldn't find a church. We looked and looked for a church, and there was really nice churches, and there was really good churches, and there was churches that were really scary churches. I mean, they had great hearts, and they tried really hard, but they were really scary. I don't know why there were chickens there. We finally, after a while, our friend Gladys said, hey, there's a church and a skating rink in Oneida, and they play rock music. You guys should go there. And we went there. And Lisa is very punk rock, rave kind of chick from California, And we walked in, and that's the first thing we saw was a guy playing bass, I think they were playing a Hillsong song, what are the odds? A Hillsong tune at our church, no way. And they were punking it out a little bit, and it was really cool, and it was There's like a cement floor. It looked like a garage. And my wife said, "We're going to church in a warehouse."
Yeah.
So we started going to that church. A little while after we started going to that church, I don't even know if Jeff or Lisa know this, but we were at church and I was standing in the back of the church by myself. And I felt this weird, like a light kind of thing. And I think there was that shell that I talked about before that was building around my heart was there, and it started to crack a little bit. And I said, "God, I think I'm home." And that shell on my heart burst off, and I started to feel it. And it was then. It wasn't when I was 13 years old. It was 3 years ago that I was finally really saved. And I finally really gave my life over to God. I had done all this work. All of this work. I cleaned bathrooms. I cleaned 27 toilets every morning, all summer, for 3 summers straight at Camp Aldersgate. And I kept thinking I was doing all that for God, but really I'd never actually given my heart to God. I had kept all this pain and all this rejection and all this hurt and all this anger to myself, and I wasn't going to give that to God. No, that was mine. That was my trophy. I earned that hurt. I earned that pain. That was mine. And standing in the back of that church, I finally said, "God, I'm home. Take it. I don't want it anymore." Right after that, I got sick and kind of almost sort of died a little bit, just a little bit.
Not a little bit, he almost died.
I didn't, it was just a little bit.
Yeah, he's lying.
And I was in 3 times, and then the last time, I had internal bleeding and stuff, and they couldn't figure out why, because apparently when that happens to me, I don't feel any pain, I just bleed, and then all of a sudden I'm "Oh," and I'm done. So, that happened. And I was in the hospital for a month. Now remember, everything that caused all this hurt in my life was my mom leaving. The kids at school didn't like me. My siblings really weren't all that fond of me. And my dad was, unless he was yelling at me or smacking me or something like that, that meant he was interacting. Other than that, there really wasn't a whole lot. So I'm in the hospital for a month. Church on the Rock, about 150 people go to Church on the Rock every Sunday. I go to church about 150 people every Sunday. I'm in the hospital for 3 weeks. You know how many people came to see me? 1 person. 1 person came to see me. Jeff came to see me once. And you know what happened? That shell came back again. It said, bam! There's that hurt again. There's that rejection. And it was the devil in the back of my head saying, "You know what? You're not worth it. You're not worth their love. You're not worth their affection. They don't want to be your friend. You need to do these other things. You need to act like this. And if you do this, then they'll like you. If you do what I say, they'll like you." And I didn't really give in, but I was kind of blocked a lot. And it took a lot for me to give that up. A big part of me giving that up was actually Mike and his wife Lucy, their little daughter Michaela, are it's Mike's like my brother. I don't even think brother really does enough to describe how much I care about Mike. I don't think there is a word for it, but Mike and Lucy really did a lot for that. Just my wife and I had some financial problems, and we're sitting in the house, we're well, we don't really have any money, so we can eat toast, which is okay. Toast is yummy. I remember being 20 and having my first apartment, and my mom came and looked in my refrigerator, and there was beer, and I had popcorn. And she said, "What are you going to eat for dinner?" I said, "Popcorn and a beer." And she said, "No," and she took me grocery shopping, but that was a long time ago. We were sitting in our house, we were going to eat toast. Mike and Lucy showed up and "Hey, I got this chicken and vegetables and stuff. I was going to make a soup. Do you mind if I do it on your stove?" No. "Yeah, I just made 20 pounds of soup. Do you mind if I just leave it here at your house for you guys to eat over the week?" No, that's okay. Mike, who went to school to be a chef, who's a trained chef who makes really amazing food. "No, that's fine, Mike. You can leave that delicious dinner here." And that shell went away again. I started learning to be a pastor at our church. I'm a pastor in training. At some point, I will be an actual pastor. I'll have a license to pray. That way, if I get pulled over praying, I got something to show them. "I am legal, sir."